we don't even know the long-term effects, but we know they're going to be bad down the road. So everybody down here, no matter if you're parasailing or you're laying by the beach, you're absorbing. There's no cautious way to happily absorb poison.
The conscious decision that was made in the first place was to either save the water column or save the marshes and the estuaries, keep it out of people's eyesight. What they decided to do was sink it.
Didn't realize the bubbles was not sea foam, it was Corexit that started activating on it. About 15 minutes after that on the boat, my throat, esophagus was burning so bad, I was almost screaming, and it hurt, and it really hurt bad.
I started noticing this white floating sand bubbles. I mean, it wasn't normal bubbles, but, you know, and you'd go to scoop it up and it spread apart, and then if you put it into a container, it'd go down to the bottom as sand. Something I had never seen in my 61 years on Cotton Bow.
I got deathly sick. I threw up for hours upon hours. Never in my life. I didn't think I was going to make it the next morning.
Don't think that everything is fine, because it's not fine.
Either way the wind blows, we're getting it over here. And I kept wondering why, when I come outside of this climate control house, why my arms started breaking out again when they were clearing up. Well, now I know.
After the accident, it turned out that the industry was not prepared.
What are you monitoring? Where are you monitoring? What chemicals are you monitoring? How often? And where are the flippin' results?
I don't care how safe they say, and they're out there testing and doing this, that, and the other. Oh, you need to eat this and that. They're covering it up.
If the FDA's waved its magic wand and says that the Gulf's clean, the seafood's safe, let's get some FDA mobile units on our docks and let's actually do some chemical testing.
We're just not breathing it for a short period of time. You're breathing it all day long for days.
Tourists who don't know, who don't live here, have no idea, come down and put their children in it. We filmed it and turn around and say, the beach is good today. Let's go to the zoo. We've got an excellent Walmart.
Only in the United States has the system been corrupted to the extent where you could actually pull this off here.
Normally the simple answer is, and the easy answer is the right answer, and everybody was having the same kind of symptoms, so I couldn't ignore it and say that it was just a heat wave.
It settles in your tissues and it settles in your organs, and 5 to 10 years I could come down with some kind of nasty form of cancer and die.
The tests that the government and BP have been recommending show absolutely nothing. So for a long time these tests were being done and they were the wrong tests.
Nobody else knew what kind of paneling to use, so we decided to step forward and start testing. 3 different labs, 3 different doctors, and the same components. What we're talking about is like ethylbenzene and xylene, 2-methylpentane, 3-methylpentane, hexane. Those don't even have a national standard of comparison. These chemicals are showing up in air analysis that's independent from the water analysis and tarball analysis and the bloodstream analysis.
It's going to be a cultural genocide if they do not test the seafood and make sure that it's safe. Not only to protect our fishermen, but hello, what about the consumer?
So what you do then, this is an economic and political question. How you safeguard it.
So why should people be concerned? People should be concerned that this would be allowed to happen right underneath their noses. That's being told that there's 0 hydrocarbons in the water is pretty hard to believe when you can look down and see a tarball for yourself. The volatile solvent profile breaks down and looks for hydrocarbons in the bloodstream. And it tests for 9 different toxins. And you can order it up. Any doctor can use it as long as he can perform phlebotomy in-house. And you send it off to a lab in Georgia, and that's where they do the testing. So the doctor, the only thing that he has to do is actually draw the blood and take the visit and be prepared to be able to assist someone after they're diagnosed. Well, I've been working with Coastal Heritage Society, and people can contact the Gulf Coast Oil Spill Volunteers Wall, also Project Gulf Impact for their health line. Any of those numbers would get back to us, and we're trying to set up doctors in different areas. We're begging for doctors to please come forward and use this volatile solvent profile. Please, please, people need it.
His name's Don Gervin. He lives down by the Shands Bridge. He said he didn't want to wait to find out what was in all this foam out on the St. Johns River, so he got out his pool testing kit, did his own test, and he says what he found out really has him worried. Since he is a chemist, when Don Gervin saw the strange foam in the water around his boat dock,
as high as 6 inches, maybe even 8 inches high,
he decided to test it with 2 different swimming pool test kits.
We showed that we had significantly high cyanuric acid.
Cyanuric acid is a chemical used to treat swimming pools, and it convinced Gervin of the need for more tests. Now, what Don's test showed is that this foam contained roughly 250 parts per million of this cyanuric acid.
Now I'm going to come over here to this big tree and show you the real bad stuff that you've seen in the other videos. You've seen the one in the Mississippi video, the Houston video, the Ohio video. I figured I would give a few more of you some more angle, showing you Northeast Florida. This is pretty bad stuff, people. I don't know what it is. Goodness gracious. It's bad. It's way too early for this to be happening to this tree. So it was like we done had our first frost almost. Which never actually seen it turn red. The color of that stuff is red on the green. Can't tell if you can tell that or not in the video. Trying to get in as close to it as I can so you can see it. But
pollutants from the BP oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico end up as far north as New England. That could happen if a hurricane or tropical storm hits the Gulf region and moves northward.
No one's really thought about the effect of material coming over from the ocean areas and marine areas onto land.
Geochemist Sid Mitra from East Carolina University is studying how far hydrocarbons released as the oil breaks apart, and some of them toxic, can reach inland. Mitra was in the Gulf region recently taking baseline readings for a long-term study.
Once the air goes through the filters and the plugs, and it passes out here, essentially everything that we're interested in that's in the air is caught either on the filters or on these plugs.
They're sampling air and water before a hurricane strikes, then will return during and after a hurricane or tropical storm to take more readings. What they're looking for are hydrocarbons associated with the oil. They break away from oil into the air during evaporation or burning, and also break away in the water, both naturally and with dispersants applied to break up the oil.
Any type of carbon molecules, carbon-containing chemicals that are in the surface lake or the surface areas of the Gulf of Mexico would be picked up by hurricanes and storms, and then that material could also be dropped by precipitation on land in areas further upland away from the coast.
If the dispersant chemicals are mixed in, they could also be carried inland by rainfall and wind currents. If the material is toxic, there could be toxic effects.
Oil and water don't mix in general, but many of the compounds that are in oil start dissolving very readily. Those are the hydrocarbons, many of which are toxic at low concentrations.
Inside a hurricane, bands of rain drawn up from the ocean meet in the eye wall, the most violent section. Here, winds of up to 200 miles per hour spiral upward, carrying moisture and any particles in the water. A fully formed hurricane can reach up to 500 miles in diameter. And while the winds diminish when it moves inland, the rain continues to fall as it moves northward into the United States.
Our samples that are going to be in here are basically going to be representative of the entire Lake Maurepas, not just one spot in Lake Maurepas.
Mitra says the oil spill has created a sort of reverse problem that needs to be studied. Scientists are usually studying how pollutants go from land into the sea.
Very few studies looking at how carbon, hydrocarbons, any material from the ocean can actually make it up onto land. Most of us who study global carbon cycle, we worry about rivers draining material into the ocean.
On this trip, Mitra took samples in Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, and northward to North Carolina. The research is funded through the National Science Foundation.
People who are living in what's called upland areas thinking to themselves, okay, I don't really need to be concerned as much about the health effects of the oil spill because I don't live near the coast. And if you actually have rain that has some of these hydrocarbons in it, it's not going to be raining oil as you think of it, but it may very well be raining hydrocarbons which are coming from that oil slick in the Gulf of Mexico.